Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Lina and I am your Russian teacher. Today we're gonna learn all three Russian tenses in one video: present, past, and future. Many languages have complex tense system, but in Russian it's a little bit different. We have only 3 tenses and 5 forms of each verb. 2 forms for past, 1 form for present, and 2 forms for future. By the end of this video, you'll learn how to form each tense and when to use it. So get comfortable, free up the rest of your day. We'll be here for a long time. Let's get started. Let's start with the general rules, the information that is essential for this topic. In Russian, we have 2 forms of every verb. It means that in English you have 1 infinitive, 1 basic form of a verb. In Russian, we have 2 because we have 2 different aspects: imperfective and perfective. Why is that? Because each aspect we use in different situations. Imperfective is for ongoing actions or for repetition of the same action. Perfective is the opposite. We use it for single, one-time actions and for result of the action, for finished actions. Easy, right? In theory, yes. But in practice, what makes it difficult is the fact that we never know how to form the perfective aspect of the verb. They all are different. Let's look. Читать, прочитать, делать, сделать, покупать, купить, начинать, начать. You see, there is no connection between them. They all form differently, which means that we have to memorize both of the forms for every verb. But once you know that, everything else will be easy. So let's start with our tenses now. First, the present tense. The present tense we use only for imperfective verbs because they are ongoing actions. They are some habits. If in English you have 2 forms, I work, I am working, in Russian we have just one: я работаю. It will be translated as I work and I am working, depending on the situation. The tricky part of Russian tenses is that, as in Spanish, French, German, we also conjugate our verbs. We take the infinitive, the basic form of a verb, and we change it according to each pronoun. When you say I am working, you are working, in Russian it's all different forms. We have 2 conjugations: the first conjugation, the second conjugation. They all depend on the ending of our infinitive. It could be at, yet, ut, it. First conjugation is all the verbs with the endings at, yet, ut, ot, with these 11 exceptions that you see on the screen. And the second conjugation is all the verbs with the ending it, with these 2 exceptions. As you can imagine, most of Russian verbs, they are of the first conjugation. But actually, you need to know it only when you write something in Russian. When you speak, they all sound kind of the same. So if you don't want to make it more difficult for now as it is, you can just forget this information. But anyway, let's look at 2 conjugations, at 2 forms that we can have. Let's take 2 verbs. Читать for first conjugation and учить for second. Я читаю, я учу. Ты читаешь, ты учишь. Он, она читает, он, она учит. Мы читаем, мы учим. Вы читаете, вы учите. Они читают, они учат. So what do we see here? The endings for first conjugation, they have «е» sound. Читаешь, читает, читаем. But you hear how I pronounce it. I pronounce it exactly the same way as the second conjugation where you have «и» at the end. Читаешь, учишь. читает, учит. The same sound. That's why I told you it doesn't matter what conjugation it is when you speak. The only form that is completely different and it sounds differently, the last form они. Они читают, они учат. First conjugation you have ют, second at. And that's the only difference. So, as you can imagine, to conjugate other verbs, that's what we have to learn. All these highlighted endings. We take the infinitive of a verb, читать, учить, we remove two last letters, т, and we add all the following endings. The same will work for every other verb. Делать, делаю, работать, работаешь. On this screen you can see separately all the endings that you need to memorize. As you can see, the form они has more variations, so two of them, ут, ют, they are for first conjugation, at, ят, for second conjugation, depending on the softness of a sound. Unfortunately, we do have exceptions here. It would be too easy if everything was like that. But obviously, I cannot give you all the exceptions. We have probably too many. But some of the exceptions there usually are about changing the middle letter. So it's not about changing the ending. If you memorize these endings, you will be able to conjugate verbs. But some of the verbs, they change the middle letter. Same as in Spanish. You also have exceptions that sometimes you change only the first form for ya, or sometimes the whole verb is changing, so you never know. That's why to know what conjugation is correct as a beginner or as a person who continues learning Russian language but still has problems with these conjugations, I always advise to use online dictionaries. There, if you put the basic form of a verb, you can see all the conjugations, all the forms, how you can conjugate the verb. So it'll be really helpful for you. I usually use the online dictionary Reverso that I use for all the languages that I'm learning, and Russian also is there. But I know that a lot of my students, they use this website Open Russian. It's very useful. It has the stresses, the forms, the meanings of the verb, and the situations where you can use it. So it's really helpful. Now let's say quickly when to use the present tense. Obviously, when you talk about actions that are happening now. Я читаю книгу. I am reading the book. I read the book. Or when you talk about habits, repetitions of your action. Она всегда пьет кофе по утрам. Всегда пьет. Always drinks. Then the past tense. The past tense is even easier than the present tense. That's my favorite Russian tense to teach because it's easier and it doesn't have the exceptions. Almost doesn't have. At least it has less exceptions than present or future. But past tense is different from all the other tenses because here we care about the gender of a person. And it has less forms. If before we had 6 forms for each of our pronouns, here we will have only 4. Masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural. The formation is the same. We take the infinitive. Let's take 2 aspects at once, because here past tense exists for both aspects. Imperfective, perfective, читать, прочитать. So what we do, we remove again the last 2 letters, т, and we add the following letters. Я, ты, он читал, прочитал. Я, ты, она читала, прочитала. Оно читало, прочитало. Мы, вы, они читали, прочитали. Obviously, if you talk about yourself and you are a man, you would say я читал. But if you talk to a woman and you want to ask, did you read that? You will use feminine form. It's not about you anymore. It's about the person who you're talking to. Ты читала? So the logic is like this. If this tense is easier in formation, it's more difficult in a way when we need to use this case. Because here we have two aspects already. So now, every time we say something, we need to think what we mean. If we talk about actions that are in the process, in the past, you're talking about some period when you were doing something, while you were doing something. It'll be imperfective. Вчера я весь вечер читала книгу. Весь вечер implies the period of time. It's a process. It cannot be «Вчера я весь вечер прочитала книгу». It's impossible. Also, imperfective you will use for repetition. Again, я читала эту книгу 3 раза. Читала 3 раза. Repetition of the action. And the opposite one, perfective, will be used for result of the action. If you finished the book. Я прочитала всю книгу. Or я прочитала книгу. It's the same. When you say that, it's clear that you read, you finished the complete book. The main mistake that people make when they try to conjugate verbs in the past tense is that they add the auxiliary verb to be, as in English, I was reading. We never do that in Russian. It's always just one word when you make a past tense. So when you want to say I was reading, it's always я читал, я читала. Never я был читал. Remove this был. Был we will use only when to be is the main word. Like when I was young, когда я был молод, then yes, then you could use the verb to be. And the last one, the future tense. Future tense is probably the most complex one because it has two aspects. Again, imperfective, perfective, but unfortunately the formation for each aspect is different, not like in the past tense. Here we need to remember that we have two types of future. The first one for imperfective verbs, it's always compound future, always two words there. The verb to be in the future tense plus the infinitive plus the main verb. And the second type is the single future, one word form. And it looks exactly like the conjugation of the verbs in the present tense. That's why it's very confusing. But let's look at the formation first of the imperfective verbs. As I said, it takes to be, быть in the future tense, plus the infinitive of every Russian verb. Again, let's take our verb читать, imperfective aspect. Again, it depends on each pronoun. Я буду читать, ты будешь читать, он, она будет читать, мы будем читать, вы будете читать, они будут читать. This type is perfect. We don't have any exceptions. The same verb to be in the future tense plus the infinitive, an amazing tense. But unfortunately, as you can imagine, imperfective aspect, we will use it only for ongoing actions and for repetition of the action. But mostly when we talk about future, we talk about something that will be performed only once, like I'll do that. So just one time action. And that's when we will need the perfective aspect. So look at its conjugation. As I told you before, it looks exactly the same as the present tense. So if you already learned the endings for the present tense, congratulations, you don't need to learn the endings for future because they are the same. Let's look at them again and let's take the perfective aspect of читать, which is прочитать. Я прочитаю, ты прочитаешь, он, она прочитает, мы прочитаем, вы прочитаете, они прочитают. Do you see how it can be easy and confusing at the same time? Easy because, yes, it looks exactly like present. Confusing also because of that. It looks like present. If you don't know that прочитать, я прочитаю, is perfective aspect, you will never understand that it's future. You will look at the ending and you will think, okay, that's present. But no, it is future. That's why it's important to know the aspects of the verbs. If you're sure that it's perfective, you know it's future. If you know that it's imperfective, you know it's present. So be careful here, and obviously, same as in present, where we have a lot of exceptions, here we have the same. Good news that the words that are exceptions in the present tense, here they will have the same forms, like the word писать. Писать is exception in the present tense. Я пишу, ты пишешь. You see, different letter there in the middle. When we make it future and put it in the perfective aspect, написать. So, as you can imagine, future will look like я напишу, ты напишешь, он напишет. Exactly the same form. It's good when imperfective and perfective look similar. It's not good when they look differently. Like the verbs покупать, купить. You see, they have nothing in common. So present tense is normal, is a regular verb. Я покупаю, ты покупаешь, он покупает. Future is exception. Я куплю, ты купишь, он купит. That's why it's tricky. Again, if you're not sure how to conjugate the verb in the future tense, what's the perfective aspect of the verb, always use online dictionaries or just Google it. Now again, let's look at when we should use this future tense. Imperfective aspect, as I told you before, we will use for some ongoing actions in the future or repetitions of the same action. Я буду учить русский. Я буду учить русский. Obviously, here you talk about a process. It's not just one-time action. You will start learning Russian and you will finish and you will learn the whole Russian in 1 minute. No, it's impossible. It's a long process. Я буду учить русский. Same for repetition. Я буду читать каждый день. I will be reading every day. It's a repetition of your action. And perfective aspect. Simple facts. Я куплю хлеб. I'll buy some bread. Or when you want to point out that you will start reading a book and you plan to finish it tomorrow, for instance. Завтра я прочитаю эту книгу. You will finish that. You will complete this book. It's your plan. And that was it. Let's do a quick recap. Present tense doesn't exist for perfective verbs. Only imperfective. Past tense is different from all the tenses. It depends on your genders. It doesn't look nothing like present or future. And future tense is very different for imperfective and perfective. Imperfective, 2 words. Perfective, 1 word. Obviously, it looks super confusing, especially if you just started learning Russian, but that's a good base that you can use when you need to conjugate every verb. As you already understood, the most important thing here when we conjugate our verbs is to know which one is imperfective, which one is perfective. And if you don't know that, welcome to my Udemy course. There you can learn everything about Russian aspects and you will practice more how to use them, when to use them, how to conjugate the main verbs that you need when you start learning Russian language. And that was it. Hopefully it was helpful. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe to my channel and learn Russian with me.